to Career Conversations by the Monash Health Science Society. This week's episode will be a little bit different. We'll be hearing from some of our committee members on how they've stayed on track with their university studies this year during lockdowns, especially as we get into the second half of semester and big assignments and exams are coming up. Working towards a degree is difficult at the best of times, but doing it during a pandemic is even more so. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try out some of these tips from our committee. We've also linked some important websites in the show notes that go into those concepts in more depth. Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations whose lands we're recording on today, as well as the traditional owners of the land on which everyone is listening. We pay our respects to their Indigenous elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their continual connection to the land and waters.
Hi, my name is Hayley and I'm the third year representative on the committee. Today I'll be sharing with you my top tips on how to deal with lockdown and keeping on top of my study and also keeping up with all my friends and everything that's going on in the world. So firstly, my number one piece of advice is to always follow a schedule. No matter what day it is, I function best when I have a schedule. I plan my whole day out, start to finish. But I also think it's important to recognize that, if your schedule doesn't go to plan, that's okay. Like, you need to leave some room for lenience in your schedule, and don't get down on yourself if you don't complete a task. I usually will start off my day by creating a to-do list because I believe that I get things done most when I can physically see that I've ticked off a task. For example, I'll write down all the notes that I need to complete for the day, any assignments that I have coming up, and also any group work that I need to do so I'm not letting the team down, because it can be really hard during lockdown to complete group assignments. And especially since you can't meet up face to face, Zoom is super handy. And not only that, but also just creating a messenger chat where you can communicate with your group members to let them know what parts you're up to in the assignment. So making sure you put that down in your schedule so you don't forget about things, because there's nothing worse than letting group members down in a team assignment, especially if you have to get marked on your group work. You don't want to be losing marks from other members in your team because you've forgotten to add something like that into your daily schedule. So I think it's really important that you add that into your schedule, and that way, you're never going to forget things, and physically you can mark them off when they're complete, and it's a sense of accomplishment when you do that. Mark, big tick, big cross through it, anything that you need to do to get it done. But I like to physically write it out, not on my computer, but on a piece of paper, physically write everything out, dot point, and ticking them off. It's honestly, it's one of the best feelings, especially during lockdown and keeping on top of study and everything like that. But also, not just the study side of things, but it's really important during lockdown that we're keeping connected with people. I think that it's really easy to just go into a little hole and not want to socialize or not want to do anything. And I have experienced this before, and it's not a good thing and it's not something that you want to experience. So as I said before, like creating those Zoom calls with friends or even messenger chats just to talk to people that you're not talking to every day. It's really nice to talk to someone else during everything that's going on. Even if it's a 5-10 minute conversation, it just makes your day a whole lot better. If you can, if they're in your kilometers, go for a walk with someone new, or talk to your neighbor, or talk to someone new, because it's just really easy to get into a real downward spiral with everything going on, and it really just does not help your mood whatsoever if you're not talking to anyone and you're just locking yourself away. So I think really important that you should be talking to people that you don't usually talk to, and just getting out there, like trying to live life as normal as possible, even though it is very hard at the moment. But I've also just really been focusing on myself and trying to be the best version of myself. And I think that with lockdown, it's a great time to reflect on everything. And as I said, as long as you're keeping on top of things and sticking to a schedule, so your day's not all over the place, getting up, getting dressed every day, not staying in your pajamas all day, it's a really big thing. Getting up, getting dressed, you're more motivated to do things, you're more motivated to go out. And I think that has really helped me during lockdown. Getting up every day, writing out my to-do list, getting changed, out of my pyjamas. Because I know when I'm in my pyjamas, all I want to do is sit around and do nothing. So if I'm up, changed, I'm ready to go for the day, and I try to treat the day as normal as possible. And, at the end of the day, if you are struggling, make sure you do reach out. There are so many people who are out there willing to help, so many hotlines you can go to, and your friends and family are your biggest support system, whether it's virtually, in person, whatever you can do. Just make sure you look after yourselves, and, at the end of the day, your mental health is the most important thing in the grand scheme of life. And, if you are struggling, that is perfectly fine. Everyone is at the moment. Don't blame yourself, nothing like that. Just make sure you reach out for help, because people are there to help. And I think it's really important to remember that and not let things consume you and take over your life. Thanks for listening.
Hi, my name is Sumaya and I'm the General Representative at the Monash Health Science Society. The lockdown has been quite the challenge, but there are several things which I did to help me get through it. The most important thing that I have found is to prioritize your mental health. Your mental health is important, and therefore you should be taking actions that try to improve your mental health. Here's how I kept my mental health alright in lockdown. So the first thing, like many others have mentioned before, I would do is go on walks every day. I would force myself to get out of the house and go on a walk. I would try to motivate myself by walking on to places such as a nice park or 7-Eleven or a Coles, so I can buy myself a little treat, whether it's a little donut or a Slurpee. I would also listen to podcasts during these walks, because I found myself getting lost in these podcasts. I also learned something new, which was really nice. These walks have helped me stay sane in lockdown, as it was an escape. I also found myself getting fitter. Not only is walking good for your physical health, it's also good for your mental health. The second thing I try to do is have something to look forward to. So this can be as small as watching your favorite TV show at the end of the night, or even cooking your favorite meal. Also indulging in a bit of online shopping. These are small things that anyone can do, that can bring you joy and improve your day. The last thing is to stay connected, to try to see your friends, virtually of course. So make sure you stay in touch with your friends and family. Organize game nights on Zoom. There are heaps of games that you could play on Zoom, such as Scribbler or even Skyfall. You can also watch Netflix party together, go on socially distanced walks, if that's possible, or even FaceTime them just to see how they're going. It's important that you stay in touch with your friends and family, as the lockdown can be quite isolating, and that seeing friends and family can be positive and make an impact during those days. These are just some of the tips that I found that has helped me during lockdown.
Hi everyone, my name is Rose McHugh and I'm a final year Bachelor of Health Science student here at Monash. I'm also a part of the Health Science Society committee. I'm going to chat about some of the ways I ensure my sanity and maintain my mental health in lockdown, a concept we have all become very familiar with over 2020 and 2021. My number one tip, have a routine. Now, this may sound cliche, but it has been the greatest way to help me stay on the top of my game with both my studies and just everyday life. I wouldn't say I follow a strict routine, but I have set some boundaries for myself. I never allow myself to stay in bed after 9 a.m, except on a Sunday, and I must make my bed as soon as I get up. This just helps kickstart my day, and it works for me. If I stay in bed past 9 a.m, there's a good chance my motivation for the rest of the day will be low and I'll feel lethargic. This works particularly well for me because I'm a morning person and the morning is when I do my best work. In saying this, it also means I don't stay up to ridiculous hours of the night watching Netflix, which I definitely could, but rest and maintaining a good circadian rhythm is so important to optimal health. I try to go to bed by 10 p.m. every night and usually spend that last half an hour or so before I go to sleep free of any screens to allow time for my brain to wind down. I feel like people underestimate the power of sleep, but did you know that your brain actually consolidates memories while you sleep? So trying to cram and study all night won't get you very far in terms of remembering what you've learnt in class. Another part of my routine includes some form of exercise or moving my body every day, whether this be in the form of a workout, yoga, or even just cleaning the house. I have also learnt to love walking, when the Melbourne weather permits it, and I have set myself some little challenges to cut down my average pace and increase my distances. This gives me something to work towards, and it feels great when you reach little goals like that. Having an Apple Watch or any fitness tracking device is also a huge motivator for me. I have set myself a goal to do 10,000 steps at least 6 days a week, and it's actually a lot easier to achieve than you think, and the health benefits are fantastic. So that's my main tips in a nutshell. Have a routine, get enough sleep, and move your body. Your study and overall health will thank you for it. Before I close off, whilst I preach these tips, there are definitely days when I don't practice them. Some days I find myself exhausted or even just mad at the world, and even the thought of getting out of bed is overwhelming. It is okay to rest, and it is okay to not be okay, and to feel like the universe is raining on your parade. Just don't unpack and live there. Take the time out you need and reach out to those who can help, and I promise the sun will start shining again. And one more cliche, we're all in this together.
Hi guys, my name is Rohini and I'm currently completing my final year of Bachelor of Public Health. I'm Vice President for the Monash Health Science Society and this is my second year of being in this role. Unfortunately, majority of my role, both in 2020 and 2021, had to be done while we were in lockdown, so it's definitely been hard to conduct events we'd originally planned and fully transition into this role. I think the best thing for me was to remain positive and flexible, which is definitely more easy said than done, considering the situation with COVID-19 is always evolving and there are always new things that are happening every day. There are a couple ways that I stayed on track during lockdown. That includes having a journal, going on walks, staying off social media, and spending time with my family or in some people's cases, housemates. And I'll go a bit into detail of all of these. So having a journal is something that I only introduced this year. Last year I didn't have one and I feel like I was definitely all over the place considering there were so many different assignments that always popped up, or even weekly tasks, or even something as simple as birthdays. I just felt like during lockdown, since it was something that was so new to us, it was really hard to just kind of have everything and stay on track as well, since we were all going through so much and trying to adapt to that. And alongside trying to remember all these dates, it was a bit hard to do that without a journal or just having one place to put it all in. So I decided to get one at the start of this year, and I didn't get a very expensive one or anything like that. I literally just went down to Typo and got one for about $5, and it has literally been such a help this year. It's genuinely been so helpful. I at the start of every week, I just make sure I put everything down that I have to do, such as weekly tasks, if I'm going for a walk, genuinely just every single detail I'll put in it, even if it's something so simple, just because it helps me structure my day, and it's just such a simple way to stay organized. So you can just always flick through, say someone asks you to go for a walk or just do something for them, you can always just flick through and see if you've got something on that day. At the start of every semester, I make sure that I go through each unit and kind of put down notes of when assessment tasks are. Of course, some of them don't have any timings until later on, such as exams, so I definitely put them in as I go, but it's just a good way to stay on track, and so that assignments just don't pop out of nowhere and creep up on you, because that can happen a lot. So
at least I feel a bit more prepared and that I can just balance everything around that. That's definitely helped me stay on track this lockdown. Another thing that helps me stay on track is going on walks during lockdown, or I just kind of equate that to taking time out for myself. Some days the weather isn't amazing, as we all know. Living in Melbourne is very bipolar in terms of weather. So when it's a sunny day, definitely see me out and about, just going on a walk or just doing a little activity if we're allowed to. So I'll definitely be doing that. But of course, when it's raining or just a gloomy weather, I'm not out and about. So then I just kind of take time to myself inside and literally just sitting on bed and watching a Netflix show or some YouTube or something like that. That just helps me recharge kind of. And in terms of staying on track, I think that just helps me take time to myself, kind of escape reality for a bit and recharge so that I'm feeling a lot better to continue tasks or just take on assignments. And that's the exact same thing as a walk. It's basically just like removing yourself from a situation and just kind of clearing your mind. So you can definitely do that in different ways. It doesn't always have to be a walk, but just genuinely anything that helps you feel a lot better and just kind of recharge. I would definitely recommend that to help you staying on track. Another thing that really definitely helps me and sometimes is hard to do would be staying off social media. Like, I find myself kind of distancing myself from social media as lockdown goes on, just because the more time I spend on it, the more time you realize it doesn't make you feel that good. It's a constant kind of comparison. I would definitely say something like Instagram is, even Facebook can be at times, and it doesn't always help me just have a positive mindset when I'm doing that. So I have really enjoyed staying off social media and just taking breaks, and even if it's not for too long, even if it is just for a few hours, it's something over nothing, because when we're in normal life and not in lockdown, we have different plans and we're not always necessarily just on our phones and having that access all the time, because I'll definitely admit it, sometimes if we've finished a task early in class or something like that, I could even find myself going on my phone. So it's just good to always take a break from that. Something that I do is not to necessarily delete the app, but just kind of log off from it, so that every time I do go back on the app, which is kind of like a habit, if I do go back on it, then I'm not tempted to just aimlessly scroll because I am logged off. So it reminds me like, oh, okay, I logged off for a reason. Like, why do you actually need to go on Instagram? But of course, you can delete the app for a bit. Anything that just helps you take a little break and just focus on yourself for a bit instead of comparing yourself to others or just going in a negative mindset if your screen time is really being increased. I would definitely recommend that as a good way to stay on track to your tasks that you need to do and also have a positive mindset. So with that, I'll leave it off at there for today. I really hope you enjoyed some of my tips and tricks. I know that it is really hard going through this lockdown, because obviously it is the sixth one for many of us. So I really hope that you're all taking care, staying safe, and reaching out to friends and family as much as you can.
Hi everyone, my name is Kesang and I'm the Monash Health Science Society's Marketing Director. I'm in my last semester of the Master of Public Health, so my experience is a little different to the undergrad experience. The MPH is designed to mostly be done online, and so the transition to fully online learning was quite smooth. It does mean, though, that I've had to get really good at 100% intrinsically motivating myself to do my work. I think the two main things that have kept me on track are calendar blocking and sticking to a routine. For a bit of context, MPH units are usually a weekly online module where you self-teach yourself content, weekly or fortnightly Moodle forum posts where you critically reflect on a topic prompt, and then 2 to 3 big final assignments where you apply what you've learned that semester. It's very individual, which can be difficult for people who prefer guided learning, but the plus side is that you have a lot of freedom to do your work when you want to, and I think that applies to undergrad degrees too, which recorded lectures and shoots from the comfort of your home. So calendar blocking, I think, is really well explained by Amy Landino on YouTube, which I'll link to in the show notes. But essentially, it's using a digital calendar like Google Calendar or Apple Calendar to plan out your day and weeks in blocks of time. At the beginning of each week, or sometimes even the beginning of semester, I'll go through all the tasks I need to do for each unit, make a nice big list, allocate each task an amount of time I think it'll take for me to do it, and then start slotting these tasks into my calendar in blocks of time. This way I'm able to visually see that as long as I follow what my calendar tells me to do, I'll be able to get everything done, and that actually gives me a lot of peace of mind. For this technique, it's really important to be realistic about how long it takes for you to do different tasks and to schedule in breaks. I like to actually write into the calendar what I want to do during each of my breaks so that I have something to look forward to during the day. Working through a Law for Health Systems module is a lot easier when you know that afterwards I'm going to be getting an hour to eat lunch and watch an episode of Grace and Frankie. Sticking to a schedule goes hand in hand with calendar blocking. And a couple other people from the committee have touched on this already. I think it really helps me mentally to have a recurring structure to my day every day, and knowing that if I follow my calendar, I'm free to do the things I want to do when I want to do them. Adding to what the others have said, having a good sleep hygiene schedule, and yes, it sounds silly, but it's really called sleep hygiene, has been so important to me in lockdown. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day and having a solid bedtime routine with no technology really helps to not feel yuck in the mornings. It sounds simple, but it's really, really important. A really good book which discusses how important sleep is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and I'd highly recommend reading that. That's all we have time for. Thanks to Rose, Sumaya, Hayley and Rohini for sharing their experiences and tips for staying on track with uni during lockdown, and good luck to all our listeners with your own studies in the second half of semester 2. Thanks for listening, stay tuned and join us next time for more career conversations.